announce the results yet.
Okay.
But I know that there were some people very unhappy, and what's happening? Oh, you're here for a reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Wow. That just appeared for you like this? You're here for a reason? Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm here for a reason. Yes.
That's the message.
It's a sign. It's a sign from somewhere. Yes.
Today and always, you're here for a reason.
Exactly.
Andres, very nice to meet you in person, by the way, because I saw
yes, indeed.
messages and Wendy's like, oh, but I know Andres. Oh, okay. So
that's my fun run partner.
Yay!
I see a few people joined, and I know some people had a conflict this morning, so they asked us to record this session for them, and we're going to send the recording after the session. So if no one minds, we will start recording the session, and we can, if you allow us, we'll dive in right away. If everyone is ready, then we are starting. Okay.
Ready.
Hello, my friends. Hello, friends. You are here for a reason, and we're not kidding. If you are here today, it means that you have seen our message somewhere else, and it means that it resonated with you, and it means that you have something inside yourself that we also can relate to. It means that you are not just willing to do your job from 9 to 5, you're willing to do something different in this world and to change your organization and to move it forward. And we are totally on board with you, and we're going to show you today how to do it, one step at a time.
Four. Slight delay.
Yeah.
Advancing, there we go. So what we decided we wanted to talk about was how can we make a difference? How can we create campaigns that get attention? We're all working on very important projects, and we want to make sure that they get the visibility they need because there's a lot of competing projects and attention, and there is a relatively simple way to make sure that your projects really stand out.
Exactly.
So this was our experience was that when I used to work at the World Bank, and I left a little bit disillusioned, and then I came back and Olga was in an office across from me, and we were laughing and we were creating things, and they ended up sticking us in an office together because we were causing too much ruckus. And so what we realized is that's where we're good, is creating a ruckus, creating an impact, producing ideas that are different than what people are used to seeing, because it's the only way you can get in front of people is to have projects. And so we were brought onto other projects thereafter as a team, and they say, oh, we love your creativity, we love your innovation, we want you on to help us with our project. And we do it, and we come up with these clever, unique, fun, engaging, human-focused campaigns and visual concepts. And then they're like, well, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that because of that, we can't do that because of that, that one's too risky, that one's not good, that one's, this one people might think that, and we get frustrated because we're like, well, you asked us for this and we keep trying to deliver it, so what can we do to try and move things forward in a creative, attention-getting way within certain conservative, large organizations with a very large approval process?
Exactly. And so we got so frustrated, and we had so many head against the wall moments that we said, enough, we need to do something. And that something for us was creating Comms and Coffee. It was 1 year ago. We started the group on Yammer, on World Bank Network, and then on the UN network. And you know what we realized? We realized that actually there is a certain category of people who are thinking exactly the same, that our communications suck, of our big, large organizations, whether it's World Bank or UN, that we can do things differently, that we can create something more creative and catchy. And so we're talking exactly to these people who are ready to change something and take a bit of risk. So if you're here today, you're with us. Then the big question is, when you have to create a campaign, like it's maybe so overwhelming, like you're sitting there having your coffee and thinking, gosh, where in the world do I start to create a campaign? And you start with just one little messy step, or rather start with the question. And the question should be, why in the world are we doing this? And this meaning the campaign.
And What we know is,
by the
you
way,
have to
I'm just
start-
nodding along to everything you've been saying because I'm like, oh my God, yes, I get it.
Exactly.
And that's what Olga says, is this is our tribe. These are our like-minded people. And there's more of us than we think. And so when we come together, we have the ability to influence more, right? So that's what we're here for. And that's why we want to have our little virtual online breakfast.
Yes.
So that we can say like, okay, let's encourage each other and keep pushing each other, because we make that difference that can change the organization. And there's a thought leader we follow that Olga introduced me to, called Simon Sinek, and he always says start with why. So that's what we know. That's where you always have to begin, is what's the goal? What are you doing this for? And Andreas, you have a thought. No, you're just muting.
Yes. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That's all.
Great, perfect. So then from your why, you sort of start to come up with a theme, right? And you have to have a theme, and it doesn't mean your brand, your existing brand. You can have a different campaign brand than your corporate logo. If it's blue and black, everything in your campaign doesn't have to be blue and black. It's really true. Because you're going to probably be promoting it for a long time. And then from there, obviously, all the products. And the thing is, if you don't create a product and a campaign that stands out, there is a statistic out there that is it $10,000 is lost per campaign.
Yeah, the statistic is ours, actually, our estimation, right?
Oh, that's our estimate. We did the we were so clever in that moment. I don't know. So, you know, it's a lot of wasted time and resources. So you don't want to just do it to check it off your list. You literally want to do it because you want to bring visibility to your campaign. And sometimes that means taking a little risk. And sometimes that means standing out. And sometimes it means being a little edgy. And you have to have the courage to do that.
Exactly. And especially, you know, and we want to bring it back to personal responsibility, because we do believe we are all interconnected in this world. And if you work for the World Bank or for the UN, for another organization that is supposed to fix this world, and yet we are unmotivated or bogged down by the system, it's such a waste, and we just cannot allow this to happen, you know. So it's about personal responsibility also. Okay, this statement that we just said comes with a warning, and the warning is that safe campaigns are too risky. That was our message. Please don't do safe campaigns. And then if someone else tells you, oh no, let's just stay low key and do something safe, remind them that safe is too risky. Again, the cost associated, the money, the time, the human capital that just goes wasted if the campaign goes unnoticed. And here is our recipe, how to make a campaign a success.
3 simple steps. What is your must-have information? Not everything. Don't listen to everyone in the room. Filter through what the subject matter experts say, because you have to have your must-have information and nothing else, or it's going to get lost. It's going to be too much. It's going to be too much visual noise. It's competing against too many other campaigns. The second one is, what is going to be that 1 or 2 unique elements? What is the theme? What is going to help this translate across products to get visibility, to get recognition, for people to keep noticing, oh yeah, that campaign, I liked that, that was fun. They had fun things to say just from one little unique visual element. And then they find that there's something informational there as well. And then those impactful visuals that come along with trying to create a campaign that's going to stand out and get noticed.
Yes, now let's dive deeper. What does this all mean? And point number 1, must have info. So what do we mean by this? First part is project keywords. And when we wrote this, we were like, oh, is it such a heavy jargon term? It is, right? Like keywords, like who speaks like this? And then, yeah, I know we all do, like, but then we're like, okay, what does it really mean, the keywords? It means basically the words you use to describe your project. That's it. And you need to identify 5 to 7 of them. You can have 100, but you don't need to. 5 to 7, narrow it down out of all the materials that you have about your project. What are the most important ones that you need to describe your project with?
And this may or may not include the core information, which you know is the project name, the logo, the FURL. And the FURL is always helpful because we know that's where all that other information can be the friendly URL, of course, so hopefully everybody knows that.
Thank you.
So that you don't have to get sucked into the thought, I have to put everything on there, but they need to know this and they need to know that. They only need to know things in a digestible way. And you have multiple projects and products or visual elements that you can put in your campaign to have all that information, but each and every single piece doesn't have to have everything, or shouldn't.
Exactly. Did you talk about human language, Wendy?
Human language? No, that was you.
Okay. So basically, your step 2, once you narrow down, once you have your 5 to 7 keywords, translate them into human language. Meaning, what does it mean? Like, we use this so many terms that your grandma would never understand. So use your grandma as a resource to filter through these keywords and to ask yourself, is it too much? Like, okay, we may use the term like bandwidth, right? But usually what we mean is time, right? We don't have time to do this. Like, so then let's say time, let's not say bandwidth. Or like, this expression, use end user perspective, right? What does it mean? It just means that we want to, it's crazy because we all use it. We want to know how the person will feel and what she will think after using the service or the product that we are creating. That's it. That's the end user perspective. So let's try to roll back and to think of our grandma, whether she will understand or not. Yeah, and we love this cartoon. If you see it now, actually they're not head count, they're people. And you know what, like that's the rule Wendy and I made in our emails with teams, with customers, with everyone, like we talk to with the different clients. We specifically consistently say people. We don't say users, we may say audience from time to time, but we make the effort intentionally to say people. Wendy.
And more must-have information. What else can you have on there? Well, one way you can go about figuring out how to talk to human beings, how to talk to your target audience, how to talk to these people who are not necessarily in this industry space, is to do a little bit of benchmarking, which Olga always says that's industry jargon too. But really, basically what it means is to go online and do a little bit of research and see how some of these bigger companies talk to their audiences, to talk to the people that use their product or who they're informing about their program. So by researching and cross-referencing and looking at interesting ideas and ways of delivering and displaying information and words, you can find some keywords that might resonate with your specific audience. And you can look at slogans and other creative ways of assembling your content to make sure that your content gets the visibility it needs and can stay catchy and engaging.
Exactly. And we don't say copy. No. We don't do copycats. We take inspiration and then we add our flavor because we know our audience best, right? You know your audience best. So you can add that little flavor, that little Wendy likes to say chili, add some chili to it to make it more spicy, to make it more relevant for your audience. Find the dance. And so here you need to narrow down your messages to 3 to 5 messages. That would be ideal. Once you research online and you add your flavor and you know, okay, this can be the 3 to 5 key messages that can resonate with my audience. Next.
So, some unique elements and a theme where we have gone with some of the projects that we've worked on. Now, these are not the final projects. These are not the Yammer posts or the posters by elevators. This is just some of the unique elements we included in some of our campaigns to really try to get attention and to resonate with people and to assemble words and visuals in a way that is engaging. And that includes colors, right? We don't always, like I said, have to stick with the logo colors for a campaign. You can incorporate it, but you don't always want to do matchy-matchy because at the end of the day, that'll never stand out.
Exactly. So here's the question. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I was just going to add that, to build recognition for the campaign, right, is how you're going to capture attention, because you're going to have multiple projects and multiple products, I keep wanting to say. And so when people are walking throughout your building or wherever else are the channels that you're trying to get in front of your audience, there's something very standout that will capture their eye as they're moving across the different channels.
Exactly. And so then the next question is, so you need to find your unique element for your campaign. And how do you do it? Like, okay, sometimes you may just sit and it may fall on you enter your mental space. I don't know if you meditate, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So then we have a methodology how to find your unique element.
Which we love whiteboards, by the way.
Exactly. We like drawing, that's true. And we can even do it online. But one step would be to use the mind map. And okay, next slide will be super overwhelming, but it's for a reason. So that comes with a warning. Okay. Never do slides like this. They don't work. So this is a mind map. And why we put it here? To show you that if you work, so this is an example of a global warming topic. If some of us work on global warming, now it's called climate change, or you may work on agriculture, or you may work on transportation, or you may work on innovation or data or something else, or IT, cybersecurity. There are always branches. There is your core topic, your central topic, and then there are branches that go right, left, up, and down. And for instance, on this example, if you talk about global warming, you may also talk about greenhouse gas emissions. You can talk about how people eat, right? Their habits of eating meat rather than grass, right? Rather than plants. What transportation do they use? How the ice is melting or not melting, what is methane, and how cows produce it. So there's so many different topics that you can touch upon and you can use as a hook in your communications without saying upfront, stating the obvious and saying global warming. So this is to start your thinking and creating your mind map of your project.
So then what we often do is we follow, the next step is to start to create a mood board, right? We kind of found some of our keywords. We know some of the core elements that we have to include from our project. And then we go to a few resources and we type in, what is that, like if you're in the finance space, what is a... 3 resources and they are right there, Pinterest, Dribble, and Behance. But, you know, you put in finance and create a poster, or, you know, some only allow you 1 word. So we just put those examples up there as well. You might want to put in, you know, fun poster for finance, or, you know, creative ad finance, any combination of words. Play around with it to see what might inspire you to come up with something for your particular program or project. And to continue to get that inspiration that you need to find your own, you know, even all the master artists, they did this with each other. The painters, they looked at each other's work. I mean, it's normal. Thank you, Andreas. So again, going back to what Olga said, it's not cheating. No, and even us having this conversation today, you can go out and find other people who talk about how to get, you know, campaigns with impact. Everyone has their own way of saying it. Andreas.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Picasso said the best artist is the best thief, or something like that.
I think there was somebody who said it.
Sounds like him, honestly. We just talked to him today.
And Picasso also said he starts with one idea and he finishes with another. So we do it all the time. Like, oh, let's do this. And then we try to do it and sometimes it doesn't work. Or sometimes they're like, yeah, but what if we did that? And so it builds from there. And that's the creative flow and the creative process, which is both a science and an art. So embracing that and understanding that and respecting it is important when you're doing campaigns that you really want to have impact.
Yeah, and it comes down to experience, you know, because when we started, I remember we would spend hours and hours searching for the visuals that would inspire us. But then, you know, we've been doing this with Wendy for 7 years. So now we narrow down our resources, and that's why we're sharing with you. Like, don't go just wide on Google everywhere and find anything and everything. Go specifically Pinterest, Dribble, and Behance. Like, we're using those 3. If you scan through these 3, you will have a pretty good understanding of what visually is going on in your space. So that's our recommendation.
Particularly for this tribe who's trying to challenge status quo and come up with modern visuals that we know exist in the eyes of our audiences in the rest of their life, right? Maybe not in the walls that we work in yet enough. However, everywhere else they go, they're used to seeing this stuff. So this is not anything abnormal or shocking.
Exactly.
I want to say thank you, because I know that designers, they don't share their inspiration pools easily. So that is great.
We're about breaking we believe in breaking the barriers between everyone and everything, and just extreme sharing.
The
Absolutely.
reality is we can't do all the work.
We
But if we
need to
all
share.
band together, so if we share tips, right, open forum, we want you to go off and do more of this too, and we can collectively come together and do some things, and you know, you're going to go into far-reaching corners that we'll never even know about. So the more we do this, the more it actually helps each other to be generous, right? Because then the audience and the leadership are used to seeing it, which is exactly what we want. So.
You know, I'll save my question for the end, but I have to say, do you guys know the Key and Peele anger translator that they did for Obama? Do you know what that is?
No.
Maybe Wendy does. But watching Andreas and you guys talk is like that. It's really, it's like he's your, what do you call it, expression translator.
Hopefully.
It's so funny, and I'm enjoying this.
Now you know why we
Thank
love him.
you.
Andreas and I used to work together like 4 years ago, and we clicked immediately. So like-minded people help each other.
Okay.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
excellent. Exactly. So we need to stay in this configuration for all the next online breakfast. Andres, we need your
That's right.
interpretation. That's right. So next, once you have your initial messaging, because you just searched for it and you just applied your keywords, your initial look and feel that you got the inspiration from all these visual resources. You have your initial color combination. You have all the elements combined. What do you do next? You can do many things. We go to Canva because we love Canva. And if you follow us, maybe you know that we talk about Canva all the time because it enabled us to do the design work that we didn't have the opportunity to do before. Super easy to use, can be free, can be paid membership. We don't get a commission from them. We just fans. And we sketch on Canva, but you can also sketch on PowerPoint. Like we've been doing it before Canva, right? Before Canva even existed, we were doing it on PowerPoint. It was ugly, but that was doing the job also. If you need to pass
Ugly,
it on
but
to the
fast
designer.
sometimes, yeah.
But Canva allows you to design by yourself, to design the final product yourself. And then
we keep revisiting and saying, wait a minute, does this push the envelope? And does this get the impact we need, right? So you put it together, maybe it's attractive, but is this really doing exactly what we said? And working with somebody always helps that, but you can always ask yourself, because we do that all the time. Like, wait a minute, is this really gonna get enough attention? Is this really have enough impact? We're all status quo challengers, so we're here to do something witty and edgy and something really stand out. So that's what we always go to that next step and question ourselves, keep ourselves in check about, are we doing enough?
Exactly. And we were trying to actually understand so we can explain to you, what does it mean pushing the envelope? How do you know, if you look at an idea, the visual, is it pushy enough? Is it impactful enough? How do you know? And we realized a lot of times it comes to your inner feeling, and the feeling must be, am I feeling totally safe with this visual? Like, it's okay, it's totally safe. Or am I feeling like, there are elements I'm not totally sure I should put here. I'm not totally sure how it's going to be received. Or maybe sometimes it's like, oh, I know, no, it's totally off the target. It's totally too visible, too standing out, but I'm still going to put it. And it happened to Wendy and myself quite a few times when we said, this one is never going to be accepted in the World Bank, but let's still keep it in the selection and send to the client. And then you never know, the miracle happens.
Sometimes the committee, the design by committee that often happens, that squashes a lot of the ideas, you know, the bigger the committee, the more you're like, yes, I have people that like it, some people that don't. So then you're stuck with 5 different products and campaign concepts that you've delivered. And there was critique about every single one of them. So we've just gotten used to that. Like, oh, there's going to be critique no matter what. We just know it. It's just having thick skin and being like, okay, let me hear what they said. And is there a way to tweak it from there so that we can still keep it and not completely throw it away and start over? And then sometimes, surprisingly, senior leadership embraces things more, like they're not even playing it as safe as the initial approvals level. So another way we do this is to say, Olga talks about, what do you feel, but another way to visualize it is, imagine your poster next to the elevator, or imagine your poster in a social feed with 10 others. What is yours going to even stand out, or is it going to completely blend in? So that's a strategic visual way of, checking yourself and saying, have I pushed it far enough?
Exactly. Would it make me to make a double take?
Mm-hmm.
Then we are going to the next part, which is impactful visuals. Okay, based on that example that we showed you before we did the research for financial inclusion, something finance related, right? Because many of us work on the projects that are finance related. So if it was financial inclusion, based on the research that we did online for visual, for messaging, blah, 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 we could come up quickly in a matter of minutes with this visual. Why? Because we know the pillars, the elements of our impactful visual, and we try to list them here for you. So what we believe in makes an impactful visual. First of all, color contrast, modern colors. Like we cannot use colors from 1980s, even though they're on the logo of our organizations. Strong central message is something that will grab you and hold you. And if it doesn't grab you strong enough, then we need to rethink it. Then we always beg clients for putting less text, as less as possible on the posters. The more minimalist, the better. Contrasting fonts, clear call to action. And this is one of the most important things we can say, clear call to action, because we cannot tell you how many pieces of communications are wasted because the message is there, but there is no call to action to what to do with it. And a surprising element. And it's funny about surprising element. First, we drafted it and I was drafting this one and I said, surprising element if possible. And then Wendy, we were reviewing it together and Wendy was like, what do you mean if possible? It's always possible. It's always possible. And surprising can be many things. It doesn't mean, yeah, that's how we work. We challenge each other. That's the beauty of it. It's surprising, okay, such an abstract thing, but it can be safe abstract, less safe abstract, but surprising, but it still can be surprising element.
So we know it's already 9 o'clock and we want to be respectful of your time. And this is a summary page that if you want to take a screenshot or share with your colleagues, you can go ahead and do that because we only have a couple more slides, but we wanted to make sure that, we could capture. There we go. And it'll be in the recording. And then this is sort of like that overarching recipe for impact, which many of these 3 steps that we just talked about all fall into that being strategic, right? Choosing your channels, what are your time, what are your resources, what's your deadline, we don't have to do everything. We can just do a couple things excellent, and that's going to have way bigger impact if you're being strategic and intentional rather than, again, doing a checklist, trying to do a whole bunch of things and you're doing them half-hearted. So by being strategic, by being audience specific, where does your audience go for their information? Those, for instance, in the World Bank where we used to work, my team would say to me, oh, those are digital boards. I'm like, what digital boards? Literally, I was in communications and I didn't even see them because I'm like busy trying to hit the elevator on my way upstairs because I'm running late between meetings, whatever. So really try to think about where does your audience go and how can you make this as customized for them as possible? And prioritizing your content, right? We want to make it digestible. You can do bite-sized information on different visuals that lead them to somewhere else, and even font size to make it digestible. There's a way you need to prioritize the content, going back to that mind map a little bit, because too much is too much.
Yes, too much is too much. That was my voice?
Yeah.
It's okay? It sounds okay? Okay.
Yeah.
And the last, if we can send you the last like inspirational and supporting message, and you have all our support, honestly, if you are ready to push that envelope, we are ready to push it with you and to support it in any other way. And we feel it in our skin because we lived it so many times when you're like really against the wall and you're still pushing and you're still trying to do something, when everyone in the room is saying, this is not political. This is not how we do things in this organization. You need to learn. And you are like, okay, but can we still push further and do something different, something fresher? So if someone tells you that's not how we do things here, know inside yourself that it means that you're onto something. It means that your idea was the creative one, your idea was outstanding, and you need to capitalize on it for the greater good. Wendy?
This is
If it
just the
was
beginning.
live, this is where we would all be clapping it.
Wow.
Thank you,
We can
guys.
clap too because we can encourage each other. That's the important thing, right? And
Yes.
Do you have time for questions?
Of
Yes.
course.
Okay, so quickly, I wanted to understand, based on your experience here with different countries that you're working with, how do you kind of test your message? So, for example, I'll just say pension, right? We had a poster that said Pension 101, which is a very common term in America. 101 is basics, it's the first class, whatever. But that did not really strike with people who are not familiar with American language. But so how do you test certain things like that? Like, how do you test if your message is really coming across in other countries? This is a particular challenge for a place like the bank and probably UN.
I think one thing is we usually have approval committees, right? Like design by committee, which sometimes can take out all the bad stuff. And you'd have to keep pushing back and saying, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? But it also can do things like that, right? It's a little bit of a reality check. And the more diversity you have of mind and experience, that helps because someone will usually catch things like that. However, I'm just going to say a little caveat. Sometimes it can go a little too far, and there can be things that we know movies are all over the world and people see things. And we have a campaign recently where it was using a little pop alt culture, and there was concern by some people that, oh, well, maybe they don't know that look and feel. Sometimes it's okay if they don't know that look and feel. It was not words. It wasn't anything that would have been misunderstood. But the reality is, like, for instance, China, I think, is like the biggest, viewer of Marvel comic movies and other movies. So sometimes I think we're a little too conservative, and it's okay to have those brainstorming sessions and bring those ideas up. But then we also have to challenge each other back and say, yeah, but I think this, and we can all do it nicely, right? Of course. But I do think it's socializing or sharing your visuals within, a small group to sort of get that kind of feedback is important.
Exactly. And if I may add one thing, it's so, Janvi, it's you, right?
Yes.
You. So it's so funny you said the pension 101 because it just recently happened to me. So I didn't do my education in the United States, so I didn't know what 101 meant until 2 weeks ago. It's totally, I don't believe in accidents. I think it was supposed to happen. And I was watching something like video on YouTube and it was saying something, the topic, and then 101. And then I see it again somewhere else, 101. I'm like, what in the world it means, 101. So I went online and I Googled it and explained very clearly, like you said, it's so first class introductory class. I was like, okay, cool. Right. I learned the thing. And and Wendy, I've always saying this, that it's how you treat your audience. If you treat them as smart, resourceful human beings who have Google, who have other resources at their hands, and they can understand things, and if you don't understand, they can research. Okay, not to make it totally, of course, No,
I think I like that perspective too. That's true. Like you also give them that little bit of power
and opportunity to learn, right? I mean, sometimes it might be a different culture than yours, but it's fun to learn that stuff. I mean, that's what makes that interesting, quite frankly, because we do all probably have colleagues and friends from different cultures. So it just gives us something to further understand. And who knows, maybe it gets leveraged. I mean, a lot of this stuff, Apple, Mac, Google, they have international audiences and they face some of the same challenges, but that doesn't mean you don't do something, but you have to think through it. You don't want people to get lost and be burdened by not understanding, but it's okay to learn something new.
That's true. Okay. And I have one more question if you have time for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I love Canvas. I use Canva a lot. And one thing I'm realizing is, on a longitudinal basis, so years after, for example, how are you able to kind of keep, even if I pay for elements, it's not something that I'm able to recreate year after year because Canva itself evolves. And, So how are you able to do that with just Canva? Are there any other tools that you have tried, or do you recommend any way of kind of preserving that same look and feel, the same elements that can be recreated year after year without having to go to Photoshop?
I don't know if Olga had a thought. One thought I have is probably some elements we don't want to repeat, you know, over numerous years because we want to keep things fresh. I mean, your logo, of course, is one thing that would obviously you would want a level of consistency, but for some of the design elements or visual elements, you would at some point roll out another aspect to your campaign. Even if it's the same theme, you'd have different visual elements within it. Did Olga freeze and go away? I see Andreas's mouth and face moving. Olga wasn't moving. Is she moving now? No, she's frozen. So I don't know if that answered your question or if everybody can hear me, but.
Oh, the connection is dropping.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have something
else?
else?
That's a challenge that keeps coming up, is that, you know, even logos we keep designing on tools that are out there, and keeping that consistent year after year, I feel like I'm finding that issue cropping up here and there now.
Well, I think the logo itself, you can export, right? You would want to keep it as a ping, EPS, and AI. At some point, you would want that to probably stay consistent if it's going to be across multiple years, so that you can preserve that. I mean, you can even download as a JPEG from PowerPoint, right? You know, just make your file size really small. I'm not sure if that's answering your question, but that's what it's making me think of. So, but the rest of your campaign visuals, okay, like, you can get stuff that's close or similar. It's more of the theme and the spirit and the energy of the brand. So it doesn't have to be matchy-matchy. It doesn't have to be exact, and you probably do want to keep it fresh, but there's definitely ways to preserve your logo specifically.
Exactly. I'm sorry, that the chat was, we had also a question in the chat. Jody, to answer your question, yes, the recording will be available. If Jody is still, yeah, Jody's still online, right? So yeah, it's going to be available, and no worries that you were late. So if we are ready to answer any other questions, we still have a few minutes left. If you guys have any other questions, we are here for you. And you can ask them. Thank you, Andres.
You're welcome.
And you can say them live. You can unmute yourself and.
Oh.
Yes, this is Maria. Yeah, I'm unmuting myself also to voice the same. It was a really great way to start a Friday. Thank you so much. You gave so much of inspiration. And actually, when I was looking at your Yammer site and some of your presentations, I really would like to know from where are you getting all this energy and all this creativity and all this inspiration? So is it internal? Is it from external, from outer space? I don't know. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Maria.
Yeah, and just tell us how does it come from? Because you were so lucky to find each other. It's also
we were, and we know that we are, and we can thank the World Bank for that, for bringing us together, and the team that we worked with on that time, recognizing the energy that was created by putting us together. So that's wonderful. Why we want to share it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks for joining us and your feedback.
And you're right. Actually, it's a gift to finding each other, because we keep pushing it like each other, right? And keep challenging, and that's how it works. Okay. If there is there any other questions? I don't see the questions in the chat.
Yeah. Are you going to do more of these things? This Maria also?
Yes, Maria. We're planning to do. Like the ideal plan is to do it just once a month. We'll see if we can sustain the rhythm on different topics, so we can touch upon different topics and just share.
Olga always likes to commit to a time frame, and the first thing I would like to hear is if there's something specific that you guys feel challenged by, or you specifically, and you want to share some of those ideas, we can craft our feedback, because it's amazing. Sometimes some of this stuff is very intuitive, which is specifically for me, and Olga will say, well, what about this? And I'll be like, I don't know, what do I do? And I start to think through it, and so how our dance together, we can frame this out and then help show you what we do, because sometimes we don't think about it, we're just busy doing it. So if you have any particular challenges, let us know, and we'll come up with some ideas to share.
Sure, thank you so much.
Exactly. Okay, any other questions?
Sounds like we're good.
If you guys keep the floor open, I think you'll keep getting us to talk. Because it's just fun watching you girls talk, honestly. It's really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you to everyone who joined. Annie, Carrie, Janvi, Maria, Andreas. Thank you so much. For everyone else, the recording is coming. And then we'll catch you next time and in the next post and videos and everything. And thank you for being part of the tribe.
And thank you for encouraging us and pushing us, because this even helps us to refine things more for us to better understand and be more efficient and push our own envelope. So thank you for that.
Exactly.
You know, just quickly, I'll tell you one thing that kind of made me challenge the status quo a little bit pushy, in a pushier way, I would say in a positive way, is your travel campaign and your cyber campaigns. I think that's like, see, there are people out there who respond to this. It's not just me. And I think just seeing that out there was just really helpful to kind of say, you know, it doesn't have to be how you used to do it. So, I mean, and look, there's actual examples that's working. So it's great. Thank you.
Exactly. Wow.
Thank you. It's good to hear that specifically. And we want to share that with the teams that we worked with on those, because that encourages them, knowing that that really had an impact.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's big. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we never take it for granted. And it's wonderful.
All right. Thanks all. I have to head out, but I'll see you guys. I'll talk to you guys often. Bye.
Yes.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
So we are going to
you too, ladies.
meeting now. Thank you very much, everyone, and we're looking forward to connecting on other channels.
Sounds perfect.
Bye bye.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.